Hey guys, I'm back. Part two of discussing the resale market, supply and demand, everything that's going on, effective May 27th, 2021, what's been going on probably about the last 6 months in the industry. So where we left off on part one was what people are doing in a situation and how they're offering, what they're offering cash, and then the mortgage loan process. And we left off with what people are offering with appraisals and waiving their appraisals or shortfall. So how I left it off on the last one, we were talking a little bit about the cash buyer is going to be the strongest. It's going to be very, very hard to compete with that. But there's not lost out hope because, certain sellers, we'll talk a little bit more about this. There's different reasons why people will sell a home to people. Number one is always money, right? Number two, it could be some kind of relationship. Number three, it could be they are touched. They want to sell to, maybe a veteran or somebody like that, help them utilize their VA loan or whatever the case may be. But let's continue to talk about how offers are being structured. So what we talked about was, if you weren't a cash buyer, if you're a mortgage buyer, you have the contingencies of due diligence, financial, and appraisals. And some people are waiving that. That means, again, that the house is priced at $350 and you offered $400 and that seller accepts it, and the house appraises at $350 in this case, say even appraises at $360, but let's keep it at $350. That means if somebody waives their appraisal contingency, they're willing to pay $50,000 over technically what the house is valued at by an appraisal. Because a mortgage company, it goes off appraisals because they're about to lend you off of a sales price of $400,000. They want to know that that house is worth $400,000. The house comes back, no, it's really just worth $350, but they have a buyer that's willing to make up that difference. All they ask is, okay, we'll still let you borrow off of $350, but you're going to have to make up that $50,000 difference. Believe it or not, guys, a lot of people are doing that. We don't necessarily think that a lot of our clients are in that financial position to do it. I would say 1 or 2 out of every 10 are able to do that. But then there might be 3 or 4 out of 10 that might be able to do this scenario. So they might say, okay, $350, I'll go in at $400. I don't have $50,000 to put down in addition to my closing costs and down payment, but I have $25,000. So they'll say, I will offer you $400,000 with a contingency that if the house appraises for less, I will make up the difference, in this case, $25,000 difference. So, for instance, in this case, again, the house appraises at $350. That deal would still go through if the buyer is willing to make up the difference of $25,000. So in that case, the price of the house would come down from $400,000 to $375. The loan would still be taken out for $350, and that $25,000 shortfall would be made up by the buyer. So they're paying their $25,000, and then off the $350, they're going off what their pre-approval is, what the loan is. So if you're doing, say, a 3% down conventional, you have to pay the $25,000 that you were short, the shortfall, and then the 3% of the sales price, that's your down payment, and then whatever's left for closing costs and your escrows, which are typically another 3 or 3.5%. So as you can see, it does take money. Now, what happens if somebody says, I'm not in a position I have to keep my appraisal contingency in there, I'm still willing to pay $400,000, but it's based on what it appraised for. And now it comes back and the house appraises at $350. Well, from the seller's perspective, Again, because once you buy a house, guys, guess what you become? A homeowner. And when you go to sell that house as a homeowner, what do you become? A seller, a home seller. So you're going to be in a position where you're going to want to maximize your profits. You're going to want the smoothest potential process. So let's talk about what we just talked about in video number 1 and what we're continuing to talk about in video number 2. You're now a seller. You're selling your house at $350,000. You list that house. You've got dozens of showing requests each and every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's starting to get overwhelming. All these people in your house, you can never be there, because everybody's coming in, everybody's bringing their agent to see that house. A lot of sellers get overwhelmed by that. They say, I've already had 80 people in my house in the first 3 or 4 days. Shut it off. I'm taking the best and the final offer by Friday. Okay? The agent updates that in the system. Everybody that's shown that house, now let's say you've had 80 showings in 3 or 4 days, and you get 25 offers. You might sound, is that realistic? It's happening, guys. So now you have 25 offers to review with your client on a $350,000 house. As you're going through the paperwork, as you're working it with your agent, what are things you're going to be looking for? Who brought the highest offer? If you had, let's say, 5 people offer $400,000, you had another 5 people offered $375,000, you had 2 or 3 that offered at $350,000, and you had a couple people offer under $350,000. You're automatically taking off the people that were under $350,000. You're taking off the people that just gave $350,000. Maybe you're opening your eyes to $375,000. Look, what does that look like? You're definitely looking at the 5 that did $400,000. And now you're comparing these. What as a seller would be important to you? Let me ask you that. We'll just pause it. How much money can you get, right? So you start looking at those $400,000 offers. One of them's cash. One of them is with cash. The first one, the cash with no appraisal contingency. I'm just going to give you $400,000 cash. The next one, $400,000, doing 5% down conventional, but they have an appraisal contingency. Another one, $400,000. They are doing FHA, and they have an appraisal contingency. Another one, $400,000, a VA with an appraisal contingencies, because VA, you can't waive the appraisal contingency. And then you have another $400,000 cash, but they do have an appraisal contingency. In that order, what would you, as the seller, value? You're going to go with the $400,000 because it's cash. There's no mortgage lender involved. You don't have to worry about approval, things falling through, all that kind of situation, unless it's listed in that due diligence period. They don't have to worry about an appraiser coming out and seeing what the value of the house is worth. They waive that, so no matter what, they can close on that home. That's going to look the most attractive. Then probably the cash offer with the appraisal, because again, not a mortgage company involved. Then maybe the conventional, because it's 5%. That's most likely you have pretty low debt levels and you have a very strong credit score. And then FHA, you're looked at, well, you qualify, but your debt levels are probably a little bit higher, your credit score is a little lower. From a seller's perspective, you're not as trustworthy. Like, something can fall through and I'm about to take my house on off the market to work with you. And then the VA buyer, I love that they're a veteran. I would love to sell my house to a veteran. It's a no money down program, no PMI, but it's a government-run program, and their appraisers for FHA and specifically VA are very, very conservative. That the chances are is that it's going to appraise probably for the list price if not less. And if it does a little bit more, it's just going to be a little bit more, but it's not going to be anywhere near 400,000. So how do you work this market? Obviously, if you're a cash buyer, you're feeling great. You're feeling terrific. If you're a person that needs to put in an offer as a conventional loan buyer, you're feeling, I got probably better than 50% chance if there's no cash buyer involved. Again, it happens. It's probably not, the odds are not like above 50% that a cash buyer would be out there, but it does happen. And it's happening more and more. But I'm showcasing as a conventional buyer, I'm pretty strong. I have high credit scores and low debt. And I could verify this with my my loan officer. Can be happy to talk to your agent and verify that. And if you're an FHA buyer or a VA buyer, the reality of the situation is just there's a good chance that you're going to miss out on a few until you get the one that is accepted. It doesn't mean you shouldn't stop looking. You should just quote unquote ride it out, because the other end of the spectrum, guys, is people always ask, if it's a seller's market, does that mean it's not a buyer's market? No, what's happening is it's both, meaning that there's very low inventory. You have a lot of well-qualified buyers. And with the well-qualified buyers, why are they well-qualified? Because interest rates are historically still low, 2s and 3s. So that same house that was $350, that might have cost you 20-25% more 2 years ago if interest rates were 4.5% or 5%, and now they're 2.8, 3.2, 3.5, 3.6. Like, that's a significant difference in your monthly payment. So you have this converging force of low inventory, lots of buyers out there, lots of well-qualified buyers. So what you have to do to tighten things up, to work with us, to give yourself the best opportunity, nothing changes as far as this. Know your location. It's going to be overwhelming if you're like, I'm okay with Gwinnett, I'm okay with Cobb, I'm okay with Henry, I'm okay with Fulton. Too big of a circle. Let's start with, what county do you want to live in? Then can we get it down a little bit more? What city in that county, right? Fulton County, for example, you have everything from Alpharetta all the way down to Fairburn and Chattahoochee Hills. Like, there's so many cities within Fulton County. Narrow down your zip code, your location to top 2 or 3. Before you even do that, know your numbers. Know, how much money do I have on hand? How much did I get pre-approved for? And do not look anywhere close to that pre-approved amount. Look significantly less than that, so that you can bid up to that number. And if you can make up that difference by doing that appraisal shortfall or waiving your appraisal, you're going to be even in a more powerful position. And have representation. The two most important people in this transaction are going to be us and your mortgage lender. Because you're going to need to know, based on this price point, what can I afford? What am I going to need to bring to closing? How am I going to navigate these negotiations? And the best part of having representation as a buyer agent, having a buyer agent, is it doesn't cost you anything. It's free. Like, you don't owe us anything. It's always paid out by the listing broker, the person selling their home, the person representing selling their home. So keep all this in mind, guys. Keep the faith. This is not to discourage you. It re-emphasizes what we've been talking about for the last, 6 years now. Preparation, education, saving, good credit scores, and being in a power position to offer your best offer on that home. All right? We're going to be talking about the new homes next. So stay focused, stay educated, take it all in. All right? I'll talk to you soon.